Here comes the quarterback, Burrow, looking for a block, and he got it up in the front by Hopkins into the end zone. Touchdown! What a skip!
As there's a drive in a deep left field by Castellanos, it will be a home run. And so that'll make it a 4-0 ball game.
Welcome back. It is Tuesday, November 2nd, and officially your college football playoffs are upon us. I am Aaron Smith, joined as always by my co-hosts in crime, the best producer in the city, Ed Mayhall, Jeff Howell with the deep voice set up here in the upper right corner. We'll be joined momentarily by guest Brent Young, I believe. And later on in the show, we do have another special guest for you, James Jimmy Smith, the former punter for your Cincinnati Bearcats. But getting right into it, gentlemen, Cincinnati stands after 8 games. 8-0. We are week 9, I believe. We are heading into week 10. We are number 2 atop the AP poll, number 2 atop the coaches poll. And because apparently the writers who watch these games week after week, the coaches who are, very integral in the, the whole schematics of college football, none of them know what the hell they're talking about, because Cincinnati is number 6. Yes, you heard that right. Number 6 in the college football playoff. And if you are hearing that for the first time, where the hell have you been when you're listening to this? So Jeff, I know you're fired up about it. So I'm going to put you on hold because I know that once you get going, there's no way I'm getting you to stop. You are a freight train of emotion right now. But Ed, what were your initial reactions, your initial thoughts when you saw Cincinnati was slotting in at number 6 in the college football playoff poll?
I'm not surprised. It's like I told a toll worker today at the polling booth. I knew this was going to happen. I knew somehow they were going to screw us out of it. The Ohio State crybabies are all going to be happy because they're making it even though they're losing. We knew this was going to happen.
It's unbelievable to me that that's a thing, that we are sitting at number 6. I did not see that coming, as it's never happened that a team, even a group of 5 team, has been slotted any less than 2 or 3 spots below where they initially were brought in at 2, or so in this case 2. But here we are. Brent Young joining the show now. But Jeff, as promised, I will let you get going here with your opinion, because like I said, you were going to be a freight train coming through. So what you got for us? I know what you said when you first came in here, so I hope you say it again.
Oh, I'm going to say it again. They are who we thought they were. And when I say that, I'm referring to the CFP committee.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. Absolutely a sham. I mean, when the rankings start coming in, I was looking for Houston and SMU.
Yep.
Neither one of them showed up.
But you
Fresno State showed up.
Got a couple 3-loss teams in there, none of which happen to be Penn State, who's in the top 25 in the AP and coaches polls, oddly enough. But
Wisconsin's above them
in
the CFP.
Conveniently, might I add.
A couple Big Ten East teams.
Weird how that works.
Very strange.
Yep.
And so as that started to roll in, and I didn't see those 2 teams, you felt the fix was in. Mm-hmm. And then it starts, they get down there and they want to talk about it. Then Notre Dame's at 10. Their only loss is, until the CFP rankings came out, their only loss is to the number 2 team in the country.
My favorite thing that I think I've seen everywhere right now is the fact that the Notre Dame Fighting Irish are a bad team. They're a bad team. Did you know that? They're a bad team. They're not even a okay team, not even like it's always everything that I've seen on, and not from like even the talking heads, because I don't think they have anything to do with Notre Dame. No one's even bringing them up. It's just all the fans saying Oh no, they're a bad team. How's that your best win? They're a bad team.
And the other funny thing that I see is a lot of what you see on Twitter. A lot of the things we're going to say on the show tonight, as a matter of fact, are all over Twitter from tons of different sources. And you want to know why? Because it's very obvious what is going on yet again. I think this is only the second time that, if my research is correct, this is only the second time that the number 2 ranked team in the AP and CF, or in the coaches, are outside the top 4 in the first ranking. I think Baylor in like 2015, maybe that was right. I might have the year wrong, but there's only been one other number 2 team in the previous rankings before the CFP comes out halfway through the season that didn't start in the top 4.
So Brent, you are joining the show for the first time, so welcome, sir.
Hi, Brent.
How are we, guys?
Good. How are you?
Pleasure to be
Frustrated as hell.
Yeah, same.
So what were your initial reactions when you saw the college football playoff poll drop just a few short moments ago, really?
Well, sadly, I didn't have the pleasure that Ed did to talk to someone at a pay toll location and kind of ease my frustrations before it came later in the night. Sadly, I'm stuck texting with delusional college football fans that kind of have the same Power 5 mentality that the College Football Playoff Committee has as well. So I've been hearing it all day, and I've been doing nothing but backing up Cincinnati. And one of the main things for me is the fact that, like you mentioned, Aaron, there is the AP poll and the coaches poll. And Jeff, you mentioned this as well. And it's not really, now that the CFP poll has come out immediately, those are the rankings that are switched in for the teams. And literally, if you look at the apps right now, it's going to say number 6 Cincinnati, which whatever. But there's 130 people that make up the AP poll and also make up the coaches poll total between the two of them, 65 and 65. So 130 people had an average of Cincinnati at number 2, and then a 13-person playoff committee has them at number 6. It's just, I don't know. It's frustrating, obviously, and everyone feels the same frustration. I was more just angry about Oregon ahead of Cincinnati, and I understand the big win on the road at Ohio State, but you lose to a 3-5 Stanford team, and this is a Stanford team that has lost 3 straight. Their other 2 wins outside of that Oregon game is to USC, who is just another name brand thing, and then Vanderbilt, who I don't even need to describe what Vanderbilt is. It's just very frustrating. But there is a silver lining. I'm going to try and be optimistic through this. The lining is that a lot of these teams ahead of Cincinnati will play each other. Ohio State and Michigan State play coming up soon. Georgia and Alabama will sort itself out. Which brings me back. Yeah, right. Either they're both in or just one of them. So it'll be sorted out somewhat. Yeah.
Losses don't seem to count in the SEC at this point. Well, at least
losses don't seem to count anywhere.
If you're Alabama, if you're Oregon,
we should have lost. We should. I saw somebody tweet and say that someone needs to write a sign that says we should have lost to Stanford.
I saw that
for this weekend at game day, which, by the way, is going to be some sort of ridiculous situation. ESPN might want to move it.
I mean, Reese is a big fan of the Bearcats, though. He's the one that number 2. Yeah,
he said number 2.
Yeah, it's gonna be frustrating because how on earth are these teams gonna now have the ability for an SMU and for Houston to bounce back in? Because obviously now, when Cincinnati plays SMU and when Cincinnati plays Houston, it's gonna be okay. Well, neither of these two teams were ranked when the Bearcats beat them.
Well, and especially since those teams only have 1 loss each, and now you're letting teams that have 2 and 3 losses. I mean, you let Mississippi State with 3 losses into the top 25. So the hell are we doing here?
One of those, yeah. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying a lot of those prop up,
exactly
your other teams. It's just like why is like Fresno State? What does that do? That props up Oregon, right?
Mm-hmm. They lost to Hawaii.
Oregon lost to Stanford.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
It's just
and for everybody who wants to say who has Cincinnati beat, well, we beat a team that's in the top 10 right now. Who's Ohio State beat? Who's Ohio State beat?
In their house,
right?
We went into Notre Dame Stadium and beat them convincingly. Like the most ridiculous part of that whole thing was Desmond Ridder trying to throw a ball into the stands at the end of the game.
If Ohio State had beaten Oregon in their own house, first off, Oregon wouldn't be in the top 10. I think we can all agree that. But here they are. But again, if Ohio State had beaten Oregon, you wouldn't have me making this argument at this point in time. Like, I'd be okay with Ohio State being ranked over us. They had beaten Oregon, but who have they beat? Outside of that, they beat Minnesota, who is getting propped up for reasons that are unbeknownst to me. Well, I mean, are they though? I guess. So I don't know. I'm pissed. I'm pissed.
Minnesota lost to Bowling Green.
And that was at Minnesota, right?
Yes.
And they were favored by like
30,
like 80 points.
Yes.
These things they just don't matter. And then you've got Gary Barta. He's up there, and they bring him in, and I don't know like how.
When's he done? When is he done with the?
I don't know how much he has to like drink before he gets on there so that he can lie through his teeth and keep a straight face.
His teeth are everywhere, so he can lie through them pretty easily.
If we don't get a "fuck Gary Barta" chant going on by the halftime, then we're doing something wrong as a fan base.
Fuck you, Gary.
Like and over here in the, I know we've been popping them up throughout this, but over here in the chat, we've got guys bringing up UTSA being unranked. Neil Slayton says that UC's clearly missing the loss to a Power 5 team on their resume. There'll be 300 Gary Barta signs on Saturday, and then Corey Held brings up the fact that his responses were more ridiculous than the rankings themselves. I mean, he's like, "Oh, we greatly respect the University of Cincinnati and their football team," and then he proceeds to shit on them for the next like 3 minutes. So I do want to I tweeted it out from the PTP account, and I'm going to say it again now, that we would like to have the entire College Football Playoff Committee come on the podcast, explain themselves. We also have great respect for them.
Just hit us up in the DMs, and I will send you the link.
Yeah, well, all 13 of them or whatever.
I don't care. I'll pay for the extra people to be in our thing if we can get all of them in here.
I think this is Gary Barta's last year as the committee chair, and I think you only serve 3 years sequentially, and then you're done, and they bring in a rotation, and it's always a rotation of I think it's 5 new faces every year, and they keep that rotation of 15, and so they 5, 5, 5, and they just keep switching out the 5.
And they all drink the same Kool-Aid when they get there with the same handbook.
Is this a voting process? Like, do we have to start a campaign to get you on the board, Aaron? No.
You have to be on the administration for the school. Unless you're Condoleezza Rice. I think she's the only one who had nothing to do with anything collegiately when she was serving, if I'm not mistaken. But in any case, can't wait to get that dude out of there. Good God, man.
Did you see what Fickle said about him?
Proceed. Yeah. Tell everybody who may not have heard it.
It's so Luke did his whole spiel about how he didn't know about the ranking, didn't want to hear about it
on Dan Hord's show.
Yeah, on the coach's show today. That happened conveniently right at 8:00, immediately following the unveiling. And of course, Dan knew, and everyone there at Montgomery knew. So it was kind of no secret that the vibe was a little frustrated when Luke walked in. So Luke still walked in and said, "Yeah, I mean, I still don't know, so go ahead and tell me." And Dan laid it all out, and Luke said the whole, I don't really care. We're going to keep focusing on this, that, and the other. And then Luke said, well, here's what Gary Barta had to say about the team, and then mentioned the criticism.
Dan said that, not Luke.
Yeah, Dan was telling Luke about how they criticized the most recent 2 wins against one-win teams and Navy and then Tulane. And that's when Luke got a little frustrated. And Luke was like, well, who is the commissioner of this College Football Playoff Committee? And Dan was like, it's Gary Barta, the AD of Iowa. And Luke said, has he ever played football before? It's just like, wow. Okay.
Apparently he did. He played for North Dakota State.
North Dakota State. I looked it up, yeah.
And I guess they were the Division II national champions or something while he was there. I don't know what he contributed to the team.
Right.
Because what he contributes to the committee, if it's anything what he contributes to the committee, he probably, maybe was the water boy. I don't know. But
That award-winning smile.
No
it's
comment.
just so frustrating. Like, and then they bring in Heather Dinich. They brought her. They brought her on, and she was just like chomping at the bit to shit on Cincinnati again.
Because Cincinnati's been all up in her mentions all week, as she has been not quiet about her whatever vendetta against Cincinnati being anywhere near the college football playoff this year. So it's just.
I will say there is.
Is that Ed's doing?
Yes.
Gosh,
No,
I just finished dinner, Ed. Get that out of here.
I will also. I do also want to mention here while we've got some people in here and whatnot. This whole thing that's going on right now, the $6 donation to UCats, if you have it in your ability to do so. I believe it was at Just Be Natty on Twitter who kind of started that and tagged a whole bunch of like Chad and us and Bearcat Journal and whatnot, and trying to start that. And it looks like it's gaining a little bit of traction. I threw my $6 in. So
Brent, how would you have ranked we'll say the top 6, if you will?
So I was fine with 1 in being Georgia, obviously.
Sure.
2, Bama kind of surprised me, but when you kind of understand that they both will decide it out, or Bama's in if they went out type situation, it didn't really make me feel either way.
I'm still waiting for them to justify Alabama losing to Georgia and saying, well, they were the number 1 team. They were supposed to lose, and slotting them at 4. That would not shock me.
Right. But still, I just think this season is a season, unless like there is complete chaos and you're talking about everyone has 1 loss, then I could see a 2-loss Bama team getting in there.
We'll see. But go ahead.
Right. But so 2, I mean, I'll say I'm fine with Bama, but I would have gone with probably, I would have been okay with even like a Michigan State sliding in at 2 just for the time being, but Bama's fine there.
Okay.
3 would be Michigan State, so one of the 2 of those.
Okay.
4 would be us. I thought we deserved at least being at 4 because that gives you room to either fall back behind teams that improve or go ahead of teams that obviously do lose or aren't showing that well on the field. Then 5, I would go with Oregon, and 6 would be Ohio State.
So Oklahoma's not in your top 6 either.
No, I actually like seeing. I was surprised when I saw Oklahoma there. I would have Oklahoma at 7 over Michigan, because I think like losing should matter.
Yeah.
And losing on the road at Michigan State, and then having no signature win for Michigan. Like
this same could be said for Ohio State, though.
Anyone. Right. No, I agree. But I've watched both teams play, and you do just have that kind of CJ Stroud is a definite superstar at quarterback. He's going to become one. They got two star wide receivers. Their defense is getting better. Michigan is just like their defense is solid. I mean, they've got some really good defensive ends, good running backs. It kind of just doesn't do it for me. But I think that winning and losing should matter. That's why I was just so frustrated when Oregon was ahead of Cincinnati. Other than that, I was kind of okay with everything. Ohio State is just whatever. I think that gets decided as well. If they went out, they're in. If they lose one more, they're out. So I'm more excited that things are kind of set where, unless for some reason they say, hey, we showed you guys kind of the disrespect of the Big 12. Well, now we're going to love them towards the end of the season. If that kind of happens, I'll really be frustrated as well, because I shouldn't see them jump that high, although they did go 11-12 with Oklahoma State and Baylor. But I think Oklahoma fumbles up against one of those two. So I'm okay with it. I hate it, but I'm okay with it.
I think the only thing I would have changed is I would have gone either Cincinnati. I would have been okay with Cincinnati even at 3. But I would have gone Cincinnati either in that 2 spot or that 3 spot, interchangeable with Michigan State at this point in time. I think you can throw either one of those teams and flip them, and you're okay with it. But I think both are better than Alabama right now with the current resume as it stands. And I think I'm good with the rest of your picks as they slot in. So I'm with you. But
because Michigan State won at Miami of Florida, which is a solid second win now that Miami of Florida has that win against Pittsburgh, and they'll probably continue to have wins against that pretty terrible ACC.
And back when they had De'Aaron King still before his injury and all of that too.
Right. Exactly.
Right before it went live, I tweeted out my picks would have been Georgia. Obviously, I think everybody agrees there. I did put Alabama at 2 only because I know who the committee is. Then I put Cincinnati at 3. I put Michigan State at 4. I did put Oklahoma at 5.
Right.
For the sole fact that
who the committee is.
Well,
right,
and they've won.
And then I had Ohio State at 6 because I dinged Oregon hard on the fact that they lost to a 3-5 Stanford team. Sorry. So that would have been my top 6. I was, however, like I said, leading into all of this, when I saw that, like Bob Stoffel over here in the comments is saying, when SMU and Houston didn't pop up, I kind of figured things were headed down a track that we didn't want, and I was kind of getting sick because I thought for sure I was going to see UC pop up like 8.
Yeah,
and I was going to lose my mind.
Same.
Not that it would matter to anybody other than the people in my house who I would probably have woken up, but that's where I stand on my thoughts for who the top 6 should have been going into this week.
Yeah, I guess my question really is what needs to happen? We all have to be Boise State fans this weekend to beat Fresno State somehow, and all of a sudden
are they on the blue field? Are they at Boise?
SMU, and I want to say they're at Fresno, but I don't know. It's just so weird seeing like how we have to pay so much attention to 20 through 25 because that is where the proverbial top wins against the top 25. That's
the thing is with SMU not being ranked in in there now is that, so say they creep in at like 25 or something next week, 24, whatever,
and they get unranked, yeah.
And then when UC beats them, then they go unranked again, and I don't know who Houston is playing between now and the end of the season that they would maybe be ranked by the time we would face them in the AAC championship game.
They'd have to hope to have like a UCF on their schedule.
I don't know what the deal is there. So it's just so frustrating. I know that everybody understands kind of what's happening by seeing who got ranked and who didn't. I mean, Aaron mentioned there's some 3-loss teams that are in there over Houston and SMU, who we know are good teams.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about last night. Tanner Mordecai is the real deal down at SMU. Like, he's putting up those video game numbers that we're used to seeing coming out of UCF, not SMU. It's like the wrong three-letter school.
TCU as well. I mean,
I did want to ask if you all feel maybe sorry that Tulsa is about to have to play against a UC team that
pissed.
That is not only probably upset with themselves for maybe not putting up crazy style points against teams that tried to suck the clock away for 2 weeks,
right?
But then now they have to play them after what Joey Galloway even said that it was disrespectful what was happening.
Cats by 90.
If they hang 100,
what do you do? What do you do if the final score is literally like something bananas, like 85 to 6?
Right. Yeah. Well, because what, you go frustration, like you said, of the past 2 road games. You finally come home. You finally have a homecoming crowd. College game day. Yes, I feel bad for Tulsa. I do.
And we're just gonna. If you see some of the guys like Michael Young was tweeting out, and I saw Jerome Ford was tweeting out. I don't know that I understood the his letters that he tweeted out with a rat and then a skull with crossbones. It scares me when Jerome Ford tweets something like that
because he's so quiet anyway.
He might rush for 1,000 yards on Saturday alone. I don't know, but it's gonna be a fun weekend, I think.
Hey, Bearcat Ray on Twitter just tweeted, how quickly can Cincy shirts get a Fick the Committee t-shirt before Saturday?
Oh, that's fantastic.
Well, I will say that LFG Cincy already has a shirt up. Let me filibuster for a second while I pull it up so that I can read it off. The CFP committee can suck my thick is the shirt that they've already got up on their website. They have sent shirts to us before to give away. I wouldn't be mad if they sent me that one to wear on the show, because I would.
Just make sure they're red.
It is. It's red with black writing.
There we go. Perfect. No, it's going to be the perfect storm. And I mean, college football, the game day being in Cincinnati this weekend is, man, I don't know if they planned this out, if they kind of knew that this could be
they knew the fix was
the dominoes. Yeah, right. So, I mean, that's going to be a ruckus crowd, and they are going to fill that place up. And
are they just going to have to blur out the entire crowd behind them because of the signs?
Yes.
Like,
I think that they asked to see your sign.
I was going to say, are they vetting signs on the way in?
I think they do, because if not, then there would have been numerous other signs in the past.
So you get your sign vetted, and you keep your big fat Sharpie marker in your pocket to flip the sign over, and then write some ridiculous comment on it, and then
get promptly kicked right out.
That's all right. It's on TV.
And then you hand it off to the next guy, and you got to
take this marker, bro. Take this marker.
You know.
And I will promptly walk myself over to Mio's, order myself a pizza and a beer, and watch the rest of the game from there.
Do we know where they're setting up College Game Day yet? Do we know where that's going to be at?
I haven't heard anything, and I'm very curious to see who the guest speaker is. So
I mean, I can't imagine that that there's any room to put it on the grid anywhere, right?
I would imagine you would have to do it on the grid, but I don't know.
Yeah, but then won't you have to kick people out of their spots?
I was going to say, I don't know if you're kicking people out of their spots in order to do so, or maybe you use what you normally have, that big stage that's right there on the grid, kind of over by where like the food trucks and stuff are. There's generally a stage, but you'd have to potentially shuffle around where you have like your alumni tents and that kind of thing too. So I don't know. I'm sure they have a plan in place. I can't imagine. It's certainly not the first time Game Day's done this. So I'm sure have sounded like McMicken Commons is what Chad's saying here. So
yeah, so it sounds like McMicken Commons.
Yeah.
All right.
Which obviously should be this. You need as much space as you can have. As much. There we go. Hello, Chad. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see just if they can control a ruckus crowd, because there will be a lot of FU this, FU that, and with the amount of people already saying that they're planning on going, I'm seeing like full fraternity frat houses are going, full
can't wait.
Groups are showing up. It's going to be
they're not going to sleep is the thing. Like this thing starts at 9 a.m. So they're just going to be on some crazy benders from Friday night, just going right into it.
The game doesn't start till 3:30, right? That's a 3:30 game.
Yeah.
This is like
passed out bodies on the grid.
Like the worst case scenario for
I'm very curious.
ESPN.
I'm very curious to see just how full that student section ends up being by the time kickoff comes around at 3:30. If the kids made it.
There you go. Kenyon Martin and Kevin Euclid both in town.
So
Aaron, if you see Kenyon, can you hook a brother up?
No, actually, no. I think I'd keep that one for myself.
I would go. My son's playing for the league championship on Saturday, so I can't skip that.
I planned ahead. I didn't have kids. With that said, Brent, do you have any last words before we let you go? We do have our other special guests in the wings waiting, but we do, preemptively thank you for joining the show today.
Yeah. I just, in closing, don't be completely down and out. A lot of football left to play, and the teams ahead of the Bearcats, they all have to figure it out themselves. They can easily control their own destiny from here on out. You just got to hope that the teams behind them, the Big 12, the looming other Power 5 conference, doesn't somehow sneak their way in and hop Cincinnati, because I think to control your own destiny, win dominantly. And Jeff, you've got a beautiful voice, man. Wow, phenomenal. And Ed, thank you very much. And Aaron,
hey, thanks for coming.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on. Last second reliever coming in for Chad, wasn't able to make it, so you called in the righty, and we were all good. Actually, the hair's always like that.
I woke up like this. How about that?
I mean, hair's always smooth.
Brent, no. I will get a hold of you, and we'll meet up for the game day experience, I'm sure. Yes. And other than that, if I don't talk to you, we'll see you on Saturday, man.
As always. Thanks a bunch, guys. Go Bearcats.
Thanks, Brent.
All right, so that was Brent Young. He is with me every Monday on the Bearcat Bounce podcast. We thank him again for making some time for us this evening and joining the show for the first time. But we do have Jimmy Smith, as I said, waiting in the wings. And if you guys wanted to bring him back.
Jeff, you got it. All right.
And I think you're on mute here. There you go.
There
Jimmy
he
Smith,
is.
welcome to the show, sir.
Okay, boys. Thanks for having me on.
You are our first Aussie, so for that, we thank you.
No worries.
I know it was a long trip to make it here for the show.
It was a tough layover, COVID restrictions, but I'm here.
So what's going on with you these days? I know you spent some time with Tennessee. What is life like currently for one Jimmy Smith?
Yeah, so I spent most of the preseason with Tennessee before being let go just before the season started. I've had a few workouts over the last few weeks with the Chicago Bears and the Baltimore Ravens. So sort of just still on the training grind and trying to find a spot. And going to take any opportunity that comes my way. So it's just to stay ready and hope at the moment. So that's all you can do.
So you were just donning the red and black with your boys in Cincinnati not even a year ago. And so it's been, I can only imagine, an emotional roller coaster for you this season as well, seeing their success and some of the struggles that they've had against the Navy, against the Tulane. So you see the college football playoff rankings come out tonight. And what were your immediate thoughts as those rankings dropped tonight?
I just can't see that even if you're like bias aside, yeah, I'm alumni, I have a stake in the race, I guess, but you cannot look at what has happened and as an impartial person and say, oh yeah, that's how it should be. That's what deserving. Like winning has no merit at the moment. And until they acknowledge that winning has merit, it may as well just be called the College Playoff Invitational because that's all it's ever going to be.
So your last action with the Cincinnati Bearcats was in the Peach Bowl against a Georgia team that has found itself at number one through 9 weeks of football going into the 10th week. How surprised are you at this point in time before tonight to see Georgia at number one and Cincinnati at number two, both those same participants who met up in your last collegiate experience?
That was like anyone that was at that game, yeah, heartbreaking the way we lost, but that was a very hard-fought game, both sides of the ball, like two teams slogging it out. Yeah, we were missing guys, they were missing guys, but I could honestly see that Georgia was going to be coming full steam ahead, much like Cincinnati was. We were going to be both very good teams in the coming year, and yeah, hats off to Georgia. They just thoroughly deserve that number one spot. There's definitely no debate there.
So how excited are you to see a guy that we lovingly refer to as the Rake, a fellow Aussie coming in at punter, your position, coming in and maybe not quite to where you were as a senior, but still filling in those shoes very well. And you guys are both very tall gentlemen, in general. So, like I said, just filling in those shoes, literally.
He's done an amazing job, to be honest. I think I'd actually say he's probably a little bit further ahead than where I was as a freshman. He's definitely doing his job. And in games like where we need it, like, I don't know, I think he's already had maybe 3 recovered off fumbles from returners or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I only ever had 2, like my whole time. He's already had 3 in his first season. So he's definitely got something that I can't do. So if he can keep doing that, no worries.
So have you been just, we've seen some struggles on special teams. We've seen some crazy things happening with Cole Smith being out. Have you had any concerns on your special teams unit that you've left behind to take the charge in your leave?
No, not at all. I don't. Like, anybody that knows special teams knows that it's a game, like, you can't not have it, sort of thing. Like, and everyone was quick to jump all over Cole, yada, 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 this, that, and the other. But I don't think anyone realizes that specialists are going to be harder on themselves than anything you're ever going to read someone write to you on Twitter. At the end of the day, you only get, 3 or 4 plays a game to showcase what you can do. And you make one mistake or a couple of mistakes, everyone remembers it for weeks to come. Whereas if you play another position, linebacker, quarterback, you get 45, 50 opportunities. And if you make a mistake once, it's sort of brushed aside because you've done 49 other good things. So, no, I've got full confidence in all those boys on the special teams unit, and they are a young unit now. Like they're there's not a lot other than Cole. Like there's not a lot of experience in that room that's played a lot of football. So there's definitely the leadership's got to come from within, and I think that's definitely what they're doing over these next few weeks, and what I've seen since the other young guys are sort of getting a bit of a shot as well.
How much are you getting a chance to talk to the guys that are on the team, as far as, especially in that special teams room, to kind of give them any words of advice, or anybody leaning into you as, you know, maybe a mentor or somebody who's been there before, to try and kind of get your point of view?
Mason bounces things off me every now and then, like Fletch, that is the punter. So like we talk probably every week, every couple of weeks, just a few messages here and there, ask him sort of how he's doing, what he's feeling. I talk to Cole pretty frequently too. Like he's one of my best mates and always will be, sort of thing. So we chat all the time. So, and then Case and Pfeiffer as well. Like, I talk to all those guys on a weekly basis probably. So yeah, we're all still pretty close, and just bounce anything that they ever want or need. Like I'm just here just to be a resource. Just bounce it off me. I'll tell you straight up. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. So that's sort of what I give.
So
with
go ahead, Jeff.
I was gonna throw out a few weeks ago when Travis Kelce changed his profile picture back to a himself in a UC in his UC days, and then the wave took over. Was that like just like a super organic thing? Did like any of you guys start like sending messages to each other like, "Hey, we're all gonna do this"? Like,
I actually jumped on the wave probably a little bit later than everybody else did. So I already had like a picture of me playing for Cincinnati, but I changed it to one where I ran the fake in the Peach Bowl because reasons.
Just why not?
Yeah, exactly. So I could not do that. But Travis Kelce sort of started the whole thing from what I can understand, and then it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you've got like guys that have been out of football for 20 and 30 years that have just happened to be on Twitter, like changing their profile picture to old pictures playing for UC. So it just became very organic, and then everyone just started doing it, and alumni and like the UC like Bearcats page and everyone just started retweeting them all. So everyone was just like getting traction. My whole feed was just like past players and alumni just changing their profile picture. It was unreal.
So how upset are you that game day is making its first appearance here now that you're not donning a jersey on Saturdays?
Doesn't worry me. I'm going to be one of those angry mobsters in the crowd with the sign that's going to get kicked out.
So you're gonna be there on Saturday?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'm coming back.
With a marker in your pocket, ready to change your sign on the back?
I don't know. I've spoke to a lot of like alumni over the last few weeks, and everyone sort of said we were coming back for homecoming anyway. And now that game day is there, I know a lot more are going to end up coming. So there could be a big crowd at the alumni tent. Could be bad.
Bad but good.
Oh no, great, but bad.
Fantastic.
That's fantastic. So this season, like I said, it's been kind of some ups and downs. What have you seen that kind of you would defend? I mean, trying to remove yourself from biases, which I know is not terribly easy to do, but what have you seen as a guy who's played on a collegiate field that put Cincinnati in this conversation as the number 2 team in the country, as you know, somebody who should be considered as one of the 4 teams that makes this playoff? And where are the areas that you feel that they still need to work on to solidify that argument?
Well, I just don't understand. Like, we've done everything anyone has asked us to do. Oh, you need to schedule more Power 5 opponents and do that away from home and get wins. We did that. No one knew Indiana was going to tank like they have. They were ranked in the preseason polls. They were ranked in the top 15. We went to Notre Dame, put on a show. Went to Indiana, probably played a slow first half, but then dominated after that. I don't understand what the committee needs to see. And as far as all these other teams that are ranked in front of us, who are their out-of-conference games? Who do they play? They don't play anybody. Like in their out-of-conference games, they just do Mickey Mouse games. They know they can win, especially in the SEC and the Big Ten. But for someone like the Ohio State one, I can understand, because people always like, they're the only people that are going to be happy, and they're all the people that are in everybody's mentions right now. Yeah, we're back on top. They can go back to Walmart and buy another Ohio State shirt, but it is what it is. But I think that it's like, and I'm not a huge Joey Galloway fan, but as he put it, it's a little bit disrespectful. And if they're going to make it that way, they should have outlined from the start, there's nothing you're going to be able to do. And you can say, oh, they had a struggling game against Navy, but who schedules the academies outside of conference play? Because no one likes to play triple option. It's hard to prepare for. And oh yeah, these are 1-6 or 1-7 teams or whatever they were. But the saying goes, no one wants to play a hungry dog because the hungry dog's always got more fight than the one that's been fed. So that's just the way it goes. So teams that have nothing to lose are going to play Cincinnati better than teams at the middle of the run. That's always how it is.
I've never heard that analogy. That's fantastic.
Is that an Australian saying?
Yeah.
I could have just made it up just then, but if we can run with it, we'll run with it.
Yeah, no, I'm here for
I
it.
love that saying. I want it on a shirt.
I'm gonna have my wife use her cricket machine to make it tomorrow.
Hit up Cincy shirts or LFG shirts or something and be like, hey, I got this idea, and you can put
slogan.
You can put Jimmy Smith 37, or I don't know if you have a logo, if you have people who've made you a logo or anything, like every college player right now has with the new rules in place.
Unreal.
Just missed those, man.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I don't actually think you can get them as international players.
Oh, that is true. I forgot about that.
So I had a lot of people reach out and said, man, it would have been good if you got the NILs. I said, no, it wouldn't have been. I would have been more upset than what I am because I couldn't have accessed any of it.
Yeah, I think with the basketball team, when they had that event a couple months ago, people like Victor Locken, people like Abdullah Doe were not able to participate because, to your point, yeah, there are international players. So I think it's something to do with the visa. If you're here as a student, you can't also be here as a work visa.
I wonder if you could have. I wonder if they could get a like an NIL deal with like a company in their home country, though.
You could. I would think you'd be able to, but I think it can only still be merchandise and things like that. It can't be like actual cash payments.
Interesting.
So if Fletch wanted to like do an NIL deal with someone, he could get sent like a few shirts and give him a shout out on Instagram. That's no problems. I think it's when money exchanges hands. That's when it's bad for the international guys. And
I did see his brother's going to be in Arkansas next year, so he's going to actually be playing. The Aussie kickers are taking over college sports, man.
Are they? Is that all come out of? Was it Pro Kick?
Yep. All of us. Nearly every guy that's come over is at a Pro Kick. Like, I think they've had over 100 now, like well over 100, like over the last 6 or 7 years.
Come play college football? Yep. So is that something that starts as like Australian rules football or rugby, and then
typically
like? So did you play rugby or?
I played Australian rules football for like 6 or 7 years, growing up. Like that was like my junior sport, and then sort of through mutual contacts got in contact with Pro Kick Australia, and then they sort of said, look, this is something you could do. Have a think about it, and I made a decision that that's what I wanted to do. So I'm here.
And then you came over and hooked up with Coach Fick.
Did.
Nice.
So what was your relationship with Fickle like?
Oh, great. I was lucky because I came over as a 22-year-old freshman. So like I got a lot of leeway, whereas a lot of people didn't. Like Coach Fick would always tell people like he's a man. He doesn't need to be worried with things. Like he'll do his stuff. He's not one to. And that was sort of the respect that I had from day one. So it was sort of the respect that I gave back. So I had to establish a leadership role, had to bring younger guys along in terms of maturity and things like that. And was like that sort of first wave of guys like myself, Derek Forrest, Jarrell White, like all those guys that were in that first like recruiting class. And now they've gone on to do other things. It was sort of like being in like the buying into the new culture sort of thing and help build the program into what it is now. So it was a good thing to be a part of, that's for sure.
So is there like a part of you that's just kind of like proud papa here at seeing where the program is currently and just the status of, just Fickle and the rest of the coaching staff just kind of all just evolving into what's become a G5 monster?
Oh, 100%. Like anyone that's played over the last 3 or 4 years can like easily put that in the ring and say, I helped bring the change of the Cincinnati program to put it back on top, rightfully so, where it should be. So to have that in your repertoire, that feather in your hat, is a pretty nice thing to have. Like I can say I was a 4-year starter at the University of Cincinnati at the turning point when they got invited to go to a Power 5 conference.
Yeah. What you got, Jeff? I've been ostracizing a lot of the questions. I know you always got some in the chamber, but
I mean, it's one of those things where, like, yeah, you see this team who a lot of us here, like, I don't know how you came across, the Cincinnati Bearcats down in Australia. If it was like, hey, you did like some workouts that sent out some video, I would assume, and some teams contacted you. It doesn't matter who any of the other teams were because you came to the right university. But those of us who grew up in Cincinnati saw a team that was in Conference USA that to get tickets to see the basketball team, we had to buy football tickets.
I've heard stories of that.
So there was a lot of that, and then we hit the D'Antonio, Brian Kelly era, even Butch Jones a little bit, and then things really fell off. And so for us to get somebody like Luke Fickell who came here and has decided that this is like home, and then to go out and get all the guys that you mentioned earlier and have a team that was part of the turning point, moving us forward into where we're headed, where UC's headed. And I keep saying we, and it's we as the fans are just excited to be able to turn on a game on ESPN instead of looking
ABC.
through the ESPN 88 to try and find a UC football game or a UC basketball game.
I like the collective we like anything that anyone that I know that's played like for the Seaport over the last 4 years loves like the inclusive community that there is like with Bearcat football. Like everyone's been along the ride with us for the last 4 years, and that's why you always hear like Des, anybody that's in the media always thanks the fans, everybody that's been there like since like the bad and now through to the good, and it's just a whole different feel. Like that first 4-8 season with Coach Fick sucked, like it wasn't good, and then the next one would we go like 10-3 or something like that, and then 11-11-9. Like it's just everyone's been there for the rise up, and now it's good to stand on top of the podium and have all the fans behind you. It's good.
Now Brady Collins joins me and Brent, who was with us earlier, and Chad every Monday during the off season. He's a crazy person, right? Like he's legit, actually. Like, I know he puts on his like professional face when he's with us on the podcast, and God bless him for it. But he's legit a crazy person, right?
Nut job, absolute nut job.
What do you have?
Could spend time in a padded room every few weeks. I'm not sure.
Might be good for him, to be quite honest. But is there a good like Brady Collins story that you can share with us? It won't get him in too much trouble, but it's still like just giving us an idea, and maybe people who don't get to talk to him on as regular basis as I find myself getting to talk to him.
Yeah, I've got a few good ones. So Coach Collins is so full on all the time, but that's like sort of what you need out of a head strength coach. He's got to be like that energizer and that motivator, because if you have someone at the top of the podium, like at top of the pedestal, that's not like an energy vampire, someone that takes away people's energy rather than give it to them. He's the exact opposite. He'll give someone the shirt off their back if it was going to make them do better, sort of thing. And that's just sort of the way he runs the weight room. So when I first got to UC, I was a reasonably skinny person, not quite as skinny as Mason Fletcher, but I was pretty skinny. And
no one was calling you the rake.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't found in Ace Hardware, that's for sure. But so I had to gain a little bit of weight, and sort of coming into like the last COVID year when we had all that time off and we weren't really running and all we were doing was lifting and eating, I sort of got back. And I was around 250 or 252, and I was big, but I was strong, but I was big, and I was probably a little bit too big. And I went up to like Coach Brent. I'm like, Coach Brady, like, I'm sorry, like I got a little bit heavy. He's like, no, we like it, we love it. And it was like getting real excited and juiced about me being 250. But as soon as I got in there, like, yeah, you're gonna probably have to lose a little bit of weight. But he was like, I'll juice up. No, we'll get you to 260. We'll do some things to get you there. I said, all right, I'll end up putting my hand down in the dirt. I'll be playing in the 3-tech if we're not careful here.
That's fantastic.
I'll be booting the ball out of Nippert here in a minute. Like, I gotta be able to keep it in here somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd be able to swing the leg if I was 260. The leg might be a little bit slower than what it is now, so the ball might not go anywhere.
That's great. Have you been around? I know you've been back. I know I saw you for help me out here. The crazy Squat Fest. Thank you.
Squat Fest.
But have you been there? I don't remember if the field was quite done at that point in time. I don't know if you've made it to any games since, or seen any of the new facilities that they've built. I know like they have I believe the video room's done now. Have you seen anything on campus since they've gotten any of the new upgrades?
I saw the new turf because I went and saw the game against Murray State. I came back for the Murray State game and was there then. But I've just seen the pictures that they've posted online of the new meeting room. And then I've heard the new proposal for the indoor facility, which is unreal. We can get rid of that nasty bubble and have something permanent that's going to do an unbelievable job for not just football, but for all athletics there at UC.
Now, Chad says it smells like a taxi. Is that accurate?
I haven't been in too many taxis to be able to tell you that because
Uber's everything.
More the thing.
Right.
Yeah, and then they always make them smell pretty nice with air fresheners, so it's not probably overpowering with air fresheners if we're going to be honest. But it's sort of not like a burnt smell, but like you know how you put popcorn in the microwave and then like there's that last bit and it kind of smells like that little burntness. That's what it smells like in there, and it's not ideal.
Oof.
So would you rather be in the bubble or out in the cold?
Cold. It depends. I'm not going to say cold right now because the first year that I was there, I sort of was lucky because it was one of the most mild winters they'd had. And then we had the 4-8 season. So I went home for all of December and went back home to an Australian summer. So I was out skiing and having the time of my life. And then we came back in January. And we had one night where there was 10 feet of snow and it was -20 wind chill outside. And that was the first day we had to go back to report into the weight room at 5:30 in the morning to start the lift program. And
with
I remember
crazy Brady.
There, 100%. And I remember walking there and I was like, no, this isn't for me. Can't do Cincinnati. I'm not living here. This is not ideal. Back to Australia I go because I just come back off this really nice summer.
So, I mean, they say everything down in Australia is going to kill you. Have you encountered anything down there that almost got you?
No, it's wildly blown out of proportion by the media, as most things certainly are. But
shocker.
Yeah, shocker, right? No, but, the way that they sort of explain it is you leave your back patio area or your front door and there's just snakes, spiders, and then kangaroos ready to just box and bite you. So it's definitely not how it is. You leave your house and you go do other things. But I've seen plenty of snakes and spiders, but you leave them alone, they leave you alone, sort of thing. It's not this big man versus wild sort of relationship.
That's good to know in case anybody ever wanted to travel to Australia and there's somebody who's actually lived it. So you're saying that there aren't spiders in every bathroom, since apparently that's a rumor that you have to have one of those crazy spiders in your bathroom to that's the size of your palm just to make sure that everything else is okay.
I've seen plenty of big spiders, but they're not ones that are going to kill you. It's the small ones that'll kill you. I'm not worried about the ones that are the size of your palm. It's the ones that are the size of your pinky finger. They're the ones that I'd worry about. But you find the occasional spider in your house, but it's nothing that good bug spray won't fix, or bottom of a shoe.
You know, I grew up watching Steve Irwin. So, you know, I saw I learned a lot about Australian animals through the Animal Planet shows with Steve Irwin.
So I don't think you have any Australian that could say that he was not their icon growing up, because anyone that was in my generation that was like that 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old when he was at the height of his career remembers watching every show with him on it and learning about animals and stuff. That was the height of Steve Irwin.
I always wanted to go, literally growing up, I'd be we have to go to his zoo. And my parents were like, We
Yeah.
can't. It is very, very far away. I'm like, I get that, but like, it can't be that expensive. Like, we fly to Florida, and they're like, nah, it's a little
times it by 10, and then you might get there.
Right, exactly.
Which is what's worse now. I think it's about 7,500 for a return trip to Australia right now with COVID restrictions. I looked and I was like, not going home. I called mum and dad up and was, probably not coming home anytime soon.
Good. When was the last time you went back?
Hold on. It's more than that now. It could be 3 years.
Wow.
It's a little bit over 2.5.
That's wild.
Crazy.
Yeah, so it is what it is. I'm lucky enough that I got a good bunch of guys over here and a good family that I've sort of made here, so it makes everything quite bearable. But back on the story about Steve Irwin, I've actually got a funny story. I actually got blocked on Twitter by Peter a few years back.
Oh, wow.
Because Peter shared this tweet about Steve Irwin and said along the lines of, he deserved what he got. He was an animal antagonizer. That stingray was just defending itself. And I quote tweeted it, and I said, absolutely disgusting response from Peter. This man's done more for animal conservation than your terrible organization will in its entire lifetime. And I got blocked by Peter. So that's my claim to fame on Twitter. I got blocked by Peter.
That's fantastic. Love that. Jeff?
Now we can't call it the bullpen anymore. So
yeah, you can't call it a bullpen.
Jeff, Ed, what anything else you guys got before we let Jimmy get on his way this evening after spending some time with us here at Pardon the Punctuation?
I got a question. If I'm correct, you were on the team and you got to meet Pat McAfee when he showed up at Camp Higher Ground. Am I correct?
Yes.
What was that like?
Unreal. So anyone that watches his podcast or knows the way he acts, like, that's not put on. Like, he's 100% like that all the time with anybody he speaks to. And just to be able to pick his brain and ask him as many questions as I thought I could. So Coach Fick was really accommodating that day. Like he said, look, you guys have done your body of work. It was towards the end of Higher Ground sort of camp. I think it was actually the week before we were about to play UCLA. That was when he came out. And so he sort of said, look, you can punt in the morning and then have some time with him, because ask him anything you want to know about the NFL and anything that you think could make you a better player. And he was more than accommodating with any question that I asked him, and he was a very good reference to have. So yeah, just an unbelievable person, and I'd love to chat with him again if possible.
Yeah.
I feel like you have that opportunity to reach out to him at any point, and he'd probably reach back. Just slide into his DMs. I think you'd be all right.
Probably.
Maybe Pat, can I get on the podcast? Let me in for
he's still rocking the Cincinnati gear every now and then.
We just sent him a new one, I think, because he had Coach Fick on the show. So I think they just sent him a new cutoff cutoff hoodie. So he loves it. He always reps them.
The special ones that no one else can get their hands on.
Exactly.
All right, Jeff, you got anything else? We'll let him get on his way.
Yep.
All right, Jimmy, you've been
on the show.
You've been very kind with your time tonight. We do appreciate it. We'll have to have you back on sometime. But as always, I know you and Chad you've been on Chad's podcast as well. So thank you for coming back to the umbrella of Chad's podcast network and making another appearance here with us. But we do thank you, sir.
No worries. Appreciate you guys having me on. And to all the UC fans out there, make sure you show up on Saturday and stick right up the CFP.
we'll get it done. Don't you worry about that.
Appreciate it, boys. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
All right, so that was James Smith, former punter for Cincinnati. So I know we didn't even touch too much on the Tulane game last night. I don't really feel that we need to touch too much on the Tulane game tonight. You can only do with what you're given in those types of situations, though, when you have a team trying to control the ball. They weren't able to stop the run, though, and that's become a kind of a common thing here. And I know, we talk about style points. Well, Cincinnati had 10 possessions. They scored 4 touchdowns and a field goal on those 10 possessions. So they scored at a 50% clip, which is pretty efficient. So I don't know, Jeff. I'm sure you still have some things that you need to get off your chest in regards to the game.
I mean,
unless you're still stewing on the actual CFP.
Well, the CFP stuff is what it is. I mean, whatever. But I mean, as far as like the Tulane game goes, like when you really go back and look at it, you've got to take some things into account. Like they were playing in front of a small high school crowd. And
Brent said last night they listed them at about 13,000, which I think is generous. I mean, we're talking like
wildly generous.
We're
that
talking
might have
like
been how many tickets were sold. I don't know that many people showed up. It was an 11 a.m. kickoff. Those people were still like at home.
Passed out on Bourbon Street. They were literally in the gutters of Bourbon Street still.
So like, I mean, I get it. Like, you can't really take that. Like, you should take it into account. The fact that they weren't at home, they're away in some stadium with like 15 people in it cheering.
You're playing in front of a COVID crowd.
So right, I mean less than a COVID crowd, and so I mean they trailed for like all of like a minute in the game. You know, it was never truly like worrisome or in doubt. And if you were worried at all, like, you know, go be an Ohio State fan, I guess. I don't know. Because you shouldn't be a UC fan if you were worried about that game. Yes, would it have been nice if they, you know, hung 60 or 70 points on them?
Hard to do when you only possess the ball 10 times, though.
But
would have taken the defense stepping up.
Exactly. Okay, so like, you know, maybe you get the ball back, maybe you capitalize on a couple, maybe you score on 100% of your possessions and you know, really show the committee what you are. But
hard to get into your groove when you're only possessing the ball 10 times, though. Once in the first, one possession in the first quarter, one possession in the third quarter.
Yeah, I mean, it was a game of stealing time away, and they kind of did the same thing that Navy did. You know, they held the ball for a long time and did a whole lot of nothing with it.
I'm curious to see if Tulsa tries to steal that blueprint as well. And now we're all of a sudden in a conversation about
do they have the personnel to do something like that?
I'm not sure.
I haven't really looked at them. I mean, I know they played Ohio State really tough.
Did you watch that game?
They were only losing by like a score with like 3 minutes to go, and then the final score ended up looking a lot worse than what really happened. From what I understand, I didn't get a chance to watch it. I don't usually turn on Ohio State.
I watched that game. Ohio State was up 7 points with 3 minutes left in the game, and they were passing the ball a lot. I don't know if they actually have the personnel to try and run the ball the way that Tulane ran the ball, although we thought that Tulane was up a creek without a paddle by having to start their third string quarterback. Navy, I don't think anybody expected Navy to quite gash us the way that they did, because they haven't. But teams are going to continue to get up for Cincinnati, unlike any other team that they have on their schedule, because they're the number 2 team in the country. And, you know, if you have a losing season, you're sitting on 1 win for your season. This is the one game that you have to leave everything on the field, because what do you have left when you only have, 4 or 5 games left in the year and you're sitting on 1 win? You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, it is what it is. Like, I don't know if we can continue to beat a dead horse here, but
right.
UC is a good football team. They went in, if you want to talk about the last 2 weeks, they went into Navy, which is a difficult place to play. I mean, James Smith just said it. There, you don't see everybody and their brother outside of Notre Dame
signing up for the academies,
signing up to play against a triple option team. You just don't. It's difficult to plan for. It's difficult to kind of change what you've been doing all year for one specific week.
Uber curious to find out when the last time, an Alabama or an Ohio State or an Oklahoma had one of the academies on their out of season schedule.
I can't imagine it was recently, because they normally play like, Kentucky State or something. So it is what it is. They do that up there. They win by 7 points. They move on. They go to Tulane. Tulane played Oklahoma, and I know Oklahoma ended up ranked like 8th in the CFP, which I'm sure they're all fired up about. But they played Oklahoma to a 5-point game in Oklahoma, a game that was supposed to be in Tulane, but ended up in Oklahoma, and they played them to a 5-point game. So is what it is. They took care of business. They won. I guess maybe they're supposed to lose one of those games. I don't know. Oregon lost to a 3-5 Stanford team, and they're in the top 4. So whatever.
At least you're not upset or anything. So, Ed, I mean, did you watch the game on Saturday? I know you just got your puppy, or were you completely consumed with all of that on Saturday?
No, Saturday was a soccer tournament, so the soccer tournaments actually started at the same time the game is. So I tried to pop in every once in a while to watch it. Me and another dad of the field were getting a little worried at the beginning. I don't care what Jeff says. Still got a little bit worried, but didn't get to watch the full game.
Okay. So, I mean, any thoughts at the end of the game when you see a final score where UC wins by 19? People are still upset about style points and still upset about, to Jeff's point, only down for maybe a minute in the whole game, and still had they controlled the game from start to finish, more or less.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I thought we were going to have a game like that. I was hoping it wouldn't come this close to, the first projections of the committee.
You also didn't want 2 in a row where it was like that.
Back from the Navy game.
Right.
But I mean, I don't know. I think they're making too much out of style points. I think a win is a win. I mean, look, it was a lucky field goal, 50-yard field goal that kept us from winning the game last year. So.
In the Peach Bowl, 57-yarder, I believe it was.
Whatever. For a college pitcher, but
something that shouldn't be happening in college football
at all. And, I mean, we just saw the Bengals 3 weeks ago can't hit a freaking 30. So, well, that was a weird game, anyways.
I was going to say I'd pump the brakes a little bit on that, but
yeah, I'll say.
But you bring up the Bengals, and I think this is a good time to transition, only because I don't know how much more we can continue to beat the dead horse. We do have college game day on Saturday, so I will be there along with Brent Young. Chad will not be able to be there because of everything going on with Kelly, but we will have Bearcat Journal, representation there. I'm not sure if new writer Michael Boston will be able to be there or not. I'm sure Dave Simone will be floating around that area with a probably hoodie full of Jello shots.
Time out.
Oh, Dad made it. Hey,
Hi,
Dad.
I will.
We're getting ready to transition, but what's going on?
There's no need to transition now.
Nope, can't.
Nah, Kelly can't sleep, so
Okay.
It is what it is.
Well, I know you've been watching, so you got to see Brent make his first appearance here at PTP, and we had a nice chat with the Aussie.
I love James Smith. Like, that's one of my favorite guys since I've been doing
Good
this.
dude.
Like,
Good
he's just
dude.
fun. Like, he's naturally funny. If there's anybody I've ever met, if I had to pick one guy that I thought, like, in my 16 years of doing this could like work in the content game and be really successful in the content game, it's Jimmy Smith.
Well, it sounds like he's only working out right now, so we might be able to find a spot for him here with BCJ.
I mean, that's not an accident that I'm like hinting at this.
So what you got, Chad? I mean, you saw the rankings come out tonight, and I've seen your tweets. Your tweets were on fire. I don't know what they've been since we started recording, since I started prepping around at 8:30 or so. Where's your head at now that you've had a little bit of time to maybe digest all? I can't imagine it's that different, but how are you feeling right now that you've had a little bit of time to digest?
I don't have a massive problem with UC at 6. Like, I get it to an extent, and we knew what they were going to do. We knew like the way the committee views this. Am I as choppy? Like, you guys are kind of choppy for me. Am I choppy for you?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I'm probably choppy, but that's
Aaron's choppy.
That's a whole different thing.
But I don't get like Oregon and Ohio State. I don't get it, because losses have to count. It has to count. losing to Stanford has to be more important than Cincinnati not playing well against Navy. That has to be more important, right? Like it has to be, but it's clearly not. And the minute that we saw that SMU and Houston weren't ranked, we knew
The fix was in. Yeah.
You know why Fresno State's in? Who does Fresno State prop up?
Oregon.
Right? Who does Wisconsin and Iowa prop up?
The rest of the Big Ten?
Well, one of those two is very likely going to be in the Big Ten title game, right?
Yeah.
So you have to have a ranked team.
You don't, but they do.
We're talking about the corruption, Aaron.
Well, because, I mean, it's, again, Gary Barta is of Iowa. And
right. We're talking about the corruption. We're talking about why this is
the chair of all of
bullshit.
This.
And he's got to feel even worse having the number 2 team in the country just get jettisoned all the way back into the
Not now, not with the new rankings that came out. They're not all the way back down there, though, is the thing.
I thought Iowa was still up in the 20s somewhere.
Yeah, they're in the 20s. They look like shit for 3 weeks.
Yes. No,
22 at 6-2 and showing us nothing. The only thing they had at the beginning of the season.
Not around. Penn State's not like.
Well, they don't need the Big Ten East.
Serves no purpose anymore.
Right.
They've got Ohio State, Michigan State. Penn State has served their purpose.
Yeah.
And outside of Michigan, who is Michigan State beat? And Michigan,
nobody.
Michigan even played?
Nobody.
Same reason you have 6-3 Minnesota at 20, 3-loss Minnesota at 20 when they're not even in the AP,
right?
Not even in the coaches, but here they are at 20, and you have Mississippi State for the same reason at 5-3, not even with that 6th win, but 5-3, sitting even higher at 17. Like, what the hell are we doing here?
Minnesota gets a lot of credit because I think Ed is going to play running back for them next week.
Hey,
congratulations, Ed.
Oh no, they get credit because they've overcome a lot of adversity by losing every running back on their team.
Cincinnati should have had more guys get hurt.
Here's the thing, though.
How fucking stupid that is.
Didn't Notre Dame beat them? But they're not a good team.
Yes.
They're only number 10. They're only number 10.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked they didn't outright put Oklahoma in better position. Kind of.
That was also shocking because I thought that Oklahoma would be up a little higher than 8.
It was the right thing to do because they haven't looked like a legit team. But
if you're going to knock Cincinnati, if you're going to knock Cincinnati for the same games, almost like,
but they didn't do it to everyone.
No, because then
Oregon deserves to be docked for the loss to Stanford, the way they played against Cal, who sucks, the way they played against UCLA.
You notice where
their resume.
You notice where they put the Florida A&M, I'm sorry, not Florida A&M, but Texas A&M team that beat Alabama. All of a sudden, they're all the way up to 14.
Right.
Crazy.
But
they beat Alabama.
And their losses are to who? Mississippi State.
Which is why you're ballooning them to 5-3 with a 5-3 record. Whole thing's a mess.
I think they also lost to Arkansas.
Yeah, they lost to Arkansas when Arkansas was hot earlier in the year.
Yeah. So
somebody said this on Bearcat Journal, and I didn't really catch it. But what Barta said was very telling about Alabama without mentioning Alabama. And you guys have been doing this, so you didn't really
Yeah, we haven't been able to pay attention to the Twitter sphere or BCJ.
The conversation was 3 through 10, which means Alabama was not in that conversation.
No,
Alabama is
always
lock
number 2
at 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
with a loss to a 2-loss Texas A&M.
That's why I brought up to Brent, where Brent's saying that Georgia and Alabama is going to fix itself. I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure because at that point,
Alabama is in place to get in.
You give them the 4 spot, even if they lose to Georgia in the SEC championship game.
Let's say that game's 21-20.
Because you can't allow somebody else at the dinner table. How are you going to allow Cincinnati at the dinner table when you have been ballooning Alabama at this point?
Well, they spent the entire first half of the year ballooning the Big Ten.
They're still doing that.
Well, they have to do that though.
Well, they're continuing
because
to do
it's
that.
not going to hold up. They have to do that.
Because otherwise, you have to start letting other people come to the table, and they can't handle that.
Otherwise, you would have Houston and SMU where they deserve to be, at least probably 20 and maybe 25.
Here's the problem with the Big Ten. It's so average, you have to hedge your bets in like 7 different places. In the East, it's going to be Ohio State. We know that. But we don't know if it's going to be Michigan, Michigan State, or Penn State, or Indiana, who was ranked preseason.
Unless Ohio State really shits the bed and loses to both Michigan and Michigan State.
But that's what I'm saying. Blow up against like a Purdue,
right?
A few years ago.
Listen to what I'm saying. They have to balloon those other 4 teams so that there's going to be 2 of them that are, a contender to Ohio State, right? The other 2 will fall by the wayside. The 2 that Ohio State beats are going to be in the top 15. And then you have to balloon the West so that whoever plays Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game also is in the top 20, even though they've sucked ass for months. But that's why this thing looks like it does. You got to put Fresno State in because they balloon Oregon. And you got to put, Baylor and Oklahoma State at 11 and 12, just in case when they beat Oklahoma, one of those 2 teams will be, and it'll probably be Baylor because Oklahoma State can't beat Oklahoma.
They've propped themselves.
But when one of those teams beats Oklahoma, all of a sudden they're going to jump into the top 6, top 7, top 6, and be a factor. And if they win the Big 12 championship, as a result of that win,
which is why
they're in the mix.
Which is why Gary Barta and his respect can both go to the same place.
Here's what he said. He said, "We respect Cincinnati," then shit in their mouth, which, What he really said is, "We have to respect Notre Dame." But Cincinnati, fuck them. That's what he said. If you go back and listen to his words, we respect Cincinnati because of Notre Dame, but outside of Notre Dame, fuck those guys. Listen to his words. Those are his words.
He did the same thing talking.
So what you're saying is we should thank Brian Kelly for the opportunity to go to South Bend.
Somebody should send Brian Kelly a fucking gift basket.
A thank you note. For the opportunity.
Tony Pike should send him a gift basket. I'm going to talk to Tony about that tomorrow.
We sit in Montgomery
to sit and watch him talk, and regardless of everybody grabbing the low hanging fruit of.
Am I mean for calling him Snaggletooth?
His snaggle teeth.
Am I mean for calling
him?
Snaggletooth?
I referred to that in our group chat
because
before I saw you did it.
Because. Well, the thing is you've got a guy that gets up there and this has kind of already been like touched on. We've talked about it, whatever. But like he says, okay, well, UC beat Notre Dame, but who else have they beat? Well, why don't we ask who else has
anyone beat?
Who have they lost to? Oh wait, the answer is no one. They've lost to no one. Did they maybe not look their greatest the last 2 weeks? Fair. That's probably fair to say. But then you look at some of the other teams, they haven't looked great all year. Let's look at a total body of work.
They still won by 19 and controlled the game at Tulsa. And they were up 17 or Tulane. It's the same fucking thing. They were up 17 in the fourth quarter against Navy. Yeah, Tulane. They were up 17 in the fourth quarter at Navy, and things got a little weird.
Yeah. We already know about your feelings on Tulsa between you and Mo. So we got that going on.
Those Tulsa people haven't chirped me much this week. It's strange. I haven't heard much from them.
Because they blocked you.
I mean, I did pose the question earlier to Brent and the other guys here. So I'll ask you too, Chad. Do you maybe have a little spot in your heart that feels sorry for Tulsa coming in to Nippert Stadium on this particular weekend?
So a couple weeks ago, I went. There's this little gourmet donut shop by my house, and it's really good. And I bought 8 gourmet donuts, and my daughter had 2 friends that were spending the night.
I remember you telling this story.
Yeah. So I brought home some donuts, and they were fire.
You had the cookies and cream, right? You missed.
I had the cookies and cream.
You missed out on the good one.
There was a Fruity Loops, there was a Fruity Pebbles. There was a Fruity Pebbles donut. There was a blueberry cheesecake donut. There was a pumpkin pie donut. So the kids took all the good ones, and I took the cookies and cream, which, it's a pretty standard flavor. It was a really good donut. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed it. But I told that story on the podcast, and Chelsea Gilchrist, who is a legend in Bearcat Twitter world, sent me a 3-word reply to my response on how I handled the donut situation. Fuck them kids.
Fair.
That's how I feel towards Tulsa right now. She's like, you gave up the Fruity Pebbles donut so that one of your daughters, not your daughter didn't get the donut. One of your daughter's friends got the donut. Fuck them kids. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with Tulsa Saturday.
Well,
Cats by 90.
They may very well hang 100 on them. I mean, you've got a team who certainly feels. I mean, if Joey Galloway is kind of breaking the mold on ESPN, and I never would have guessed it
contradicting
would have been Joey,
himself.
I never would have guessed it would have been Joey Galloway, but you've got him saying Cincinnati at 6 is disrespectful. You've got him saying that, and then you see some of the guys, what
did I say all along? This is what I said all along. If they leave, all they had to do was put Cincinnati in the top 4. Put Cincinnati at 4, put Oregon at 5, Ohio State at 6, and the committee doesn't take any heat. They take no heat.
No, I mean,
what's going to happen?
They hear it from Ohio State fans.
But what's going to happen?
You're always going to hear it from Ohio State fans unless they're number 1.
I yelled at Dave about this last week. Let me fucking talk. What's going to happen is Ohio State still has Michigan State and Michigan, right? They are, if Ohio State is at 6 and Cincinnati's at 4, they already eliminated SMU and Houston as quality wins.
I think you're giving Ohio State fans entirely too much credit that they think that far ahead.
I'm talking about the committee. The committee. If you put Cincinnati at 4, you're still going to have the Michigan State game, the Michigan game, and the Big Ten championship game to jump Ohio State over Cincinnati, right? Those are all. Last year, they jumped 3-loss Florida and 2-loss Ohio State over at Cincinnati when Cincinnati didn't play. They've already set the precedent for jumping a G5 team in mid to late November.
Hey, Matt in the chat, I'm not giving him Vince Vaughn. I'm giving him the guy from Shut the Fuck Up, Donnie. That's how I feel right now. I feel like that's Chad. Right
I'm just saying, let me finish the thought.
I did
interrupt me.
I'm just making a joke.
I know. But there's going to be chances for Ohio State to jump Cincinnati if you put Cincinnati in front of them. You already made sure of that by eliminating SMU and Houston from the discussion, right?
Because at this point, there's no way that Houston and SMU end the season. If you see wins out, right? Because they would beat both of them if Houston comes into the championship game. There's no way that SMU and Houston end the season ranked in the CFP.
No chance. Because if they get to 24 or 25 and Cincinnati wins,
then they fall out.
You're out. So they assured that tonight. That is not an overreaction. They assured that tonight. Because what happens if you put SMU and Houston in the top 25 tonight and the teams that stink ahead of them lose? Now you got to move them up because Wisconsin lost and Iowa lost and Fresno State lost. And like, you know what I mean? Like, you've got to continue to move them up because of the results.
Well,
if you leave them out, you don't have to do shit with them. They don't matter.
Somebody in our chat brought up earlier tonight, how do you leave Utsa unranked? Like, what did they have to do to not even get top 25?
You leave them unranked because they have no bearing on anything
no
else.
Purpose.
They serve no purpose.
Which is
everybody from 17 to 25 serves a purpose.
It's gross, man.
That's the corruption that people don't get. I'm going to talk about this on the radio. I'm in for Mo tomorrow from 3 to 6. That's my takeaway from this. Yep. It's not that Cincinnati is at 6. It is
the teams that are ranked at the back end
to what they're doing from 15 to 25, because all of that is designed to affect what happens from 1 through 10, just in case. They've learned that lesson. Like, there have been years where, team 16 jumps up into the top 4. They're not letting that shit happen anymore unless complete chaos breaks out. They're putting in safeguards at every level. And the safeguards they did not put in were the ones that were related to Cincinnati. And that is so telling. It is so telling.
I hate it.
Were you surprised to see Wake Forest where they were at?
Not really.
They're kind of right there in that.
They're close enough, like that they matter, like quote unquote they matter. I think what saved the committee from getting shit on Wake Forest is Oklahoma was at 8.
I mean,
so you have undefeated ACC team at 9, and everybody's like, and then undefeated Big 12 team at 8, and everybody's like, well, right? Like
with apparent Heisman favorite Caleb Williams at the helm.
Right. Caleb Williams was the quarterback for the Kansas game, by the way.
Yeah, I'm aware, but we just easily forget about that game because
it doesn't matter. But when you look at the things like what you were saying there is like all they had to do was put Cincinnati in the top 4. By putting them at 6, you've got Twitter accounts like this UConn football account that is, I mean, it's got like 17,000 followers, so it's a pretty decent account.
UConn
tweeting things.
Is it no elevators?
Yes, no escalators.
No escalators. Yeah,
Conference USA bound.
Yeah, those guys.
Tweeting things like, if Cincinnati wanted to be ranked in the college football playoff, they should have been better in 1954. Like, I mean, you're starting to.
If no escalators has Cincinnati's back, things are fucked up.
That's real weird.
Right.
That's real weird. I'm uncomfortable with that.
It's very strange.
I unfollowed them when everything happened. I'm gonna have to go comment on that and be like, this is uncomfortable. This is awkward.
I saw UCF fans back on we're beating the UC drum, which was equally strange tonight. It was like they wanted to talk shit.
This is their fault.
You paved the way and you didn't even give us a good path.
Right.
You sent us the wrong directions.
This path sucked. I mean, it's just and you know what? Then it goes.
You gave us Yahoo directions. You printed out directions from what Yahoo.
Well, apparently, it's not that you have to beat a Power 5 team. You have to beat a big Power 5 team. You have to beat and you have to schedule in.
That's the problem. No, because Notre Dame is independent. You can't. That doesn't count.
Right.
That doesn't count.
Yeah. Had to schedule and beat an Alabama or an Ohio State. One of the teams that's always in the mix. An Oklahoma.
Because Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, etc. are just rushing to play Cincinnati.
And that's the other that's like the other thing
that
really threw a big wrench into the CFP from Jump Street is the fact that Clemson sucks.
Right.
Like
imagine if they were in the mix. Cincinnati might have been at 12.
Right?
If Clemson was in the mix. Because then you had to put the ACC support. Wait, if Clemson was undefeated and Wake were both undefeated right now because they didn't play, Clemson would be in the top 4 and Wake would be like 6.
I'm just shocked that
they would have to. You know,
they'd have to make like Wake would have to be there to support Clemson in the ACC title game.
I just wonder if Oklahoma's not getting the beat from the CFP committee because they're going SEC and they're like, you'll have your time. Don't you worry. Just right now, it's not really serving any purpose.
This ain't it.
You're done with the Big 12. We're not going to give them anymore. You're coming to greener pastures. Don't you worry.
But they still did give them a little bit of safeguard.
No, but the Oklahoma stuff is right.
We know that.
No, Oklahoma beat Tulane by 5 points at their home field. Yeah, maybe they spray painted Tulane on the field to make them feel better because it was supposed to be a home game.
They put the green wave.
Yeah, you know, like the little angry middling green wave, whatever. Like they did that, and it's so frustrating. And I know that we all feel the same way. All of the UC fans, and now it seems that it has galvanized the rest of the country against the machine.
Here's the thing. Here's what I love, and I listened to Luke very intently tonight because I've been covering the guy for 5 years now, like 4 years, 11 months, 4 years, 10 months.
Are you going to give us the days
like
and
21,
hours? And
21 days, 13 hours. So whatever.
It's really weird.
From the opening press. I remember the day, like it was December 10th, 2016, because I was supposed to go my first trip to Hinkle Fieldhouse to watch UC play Butler. And we had the Luke Fickell press conference where I couldn't get to watch UC lose to Butler and Chris Holtmann on that day.
Oof.
So I remember exactly like when that happened. And like the fact that it's at where it's at in retrospect is unbelievable. And UC fans need to enjoy that because none of this makes any sense if you rewind to December 10th, 2016.
And it won't in the future either.
Sense. Like there's no way we should be here. But we're here and we just want a little fucking respect. Right? Like this isn't a flash in the pan. Yes, 2017 was bad. But 2018, 2019, 2020, this program has earned respect. They beat Power 5 teams in bowl games. You would think. They beat Power 5 teams in bowl games. They played with one of the most talent-rich programs in the sport in the Peach Bowl. They didn't win. Okay, that's fine. But, like, they have proved at every step along the way that they're worthy of being in this conversation. And this is the rant I went on today. ESPN created this. Like, you want Cincinnati doesn't play a great schedule. Do you think Cincinnati wanted to fucking be in the AAC?
No.
No. That was what ESPN afforded to them. They didn't want this. They wanted out of this from the day that it started. They didn't want to have to play Tulane and ECU and Tulsa, Temple. They were in the Big East.
They certainly didn't want to have to play Navy. Nobody wants to have to play Navy.
Right. How different does this look if you replace Navy, Tulsa, or Navy, Tulane, and Temple with West Virginia, Pitt, and Louisville?
Way different.
Way different.
It looks like a team that ended up playing Florida in the Sugar Bowl. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what it looks like.
Weird. Right. Weird how that works out.
It's just, it's exhausting to me on that front. Because, like, you've always got to have your guard up because people want to say, like, you know, Cincinnati did this to themselves. No, they didn't. They didn't want anything to do with this. They've been trying to get out of this from the day that it happened. Sorry, Jay.
I mean, no, I'm just saying, like, you know, they say Cincinnati did this to themselves. Cincinnati was always building out of where they were at. They built themselves out of Conference USA into the Big East, which was, at the time, a premier place to be. And then it crumbled around them, and they just got left out really no good reason.
Well, no, there was a reason.
Well,
ESPN wanted to kill the Big East.
A reason that just didn't suit moving UC forward.
Right.
And what did we end up with? That we ended up with a senator for a coach who didn't want to be here, who was collecting a paycheck to try and run the program into the ground.
Right.
And then you get a guy that comes in, sees, okay, we're in the AAC, but I'm going to recruit like I'm in a Power 5 conference, and I'm going to put a team together, which, by the way, has probably 10 or 11 guys that are going to be drafted.
I'd go 8. I think
okay, 8. So you're going to have a high number of guys drafted.
Go look where 8 compares.
Alabama had 11 last year.
Okay,
Yeah.
So there you go. So
that was Death Star Alabama. Death Star Alabama.
You have a very good football team here. We said it last week. Enjoy the ride, and I hopefully that gets kind of broadcast from at least from us. I know Brent kind of mentioned it a little bit before he left. We can't control what silliness happens between the four walls of wherever the CFP committee is meeting.
Not.
Don't let us spoil the season for you.
I invited them onto the show. They're probably not going to come.
Probably not.
So
I love the ambition of it. This is why I believe in you guys.
If they want to come on the
Why I
show,
believe in you
they can talk all they want.
Hell, I'd take Condoleezza Rice to tell us what happens in those meetings right now.
I said it myself,
Condoleezza Rice.
I greatly I have as much respect for the College Football Committee as they have for UC, and if that's a very high amount, then they need to come on the show and talk about it. I love this football team.
I can't get the race draft Chappelle show out of my head right now.
I mean, anytime that we make room for you to have a Dave Chappelle quote in a podcast, I'm here for it.
It just comes
even
down
though
to
he's canceled by everybody.
I love Cincinnati. I love this football team. I love where they're at. I love all of the Cincinnati sports, and Wes Miller and the basketball team are going to get the same amount of love from this podcast whenever the season starts. And I hope that the rest of the fans, the UC fans, yes, be upset, be grumbly at the CFP committee, but understand that the kids that are going out there every Saturday and busting their tail are doing it for us. James Smith said it. They love the fact that it's a we with the fans and the team.
And that was our shameless plug for basketball this week on Pardon the Punctuation, just so we can make sure that we get posted on those basketball boards on Bearcat
I didn't
Journal.
even do that on purpose.
Well done, Jeff.
You guys went in tomorrow?
I know I'm in.
You in?
In where?
For the round table, the basketball round table for Bearcat.
The BCJ basketball preview round table. You guys went in?
What time is that?
Time.
8. Whenever you can join, between 8 and 10, probably.
It'll be a long one.
It's gonna be a long one.
Soccer.
Huh?
I'll slide in.
All right.
What time's kids soccer over, Ed?
8.
So you could pop in at 8:30 or 9. And I need more. As the new executive producer of this podcast, I need more from you.
Me?
Yeah, I want you to talk more. You're funny. Talk more, Ed. Don't let Aaron and Jeff bully you.
Only in the sixth.
Use that line you used earlier tonight. Hey, Aaron, let me shut the fuck up and let me talk.
Yeah, I give you permission to use that line.
Well, I've been trying to make room for Ed here. I mean, he's got his 60 seconds of AEW, which we will give him every single week. I promise you that.
Oh yeah, you give him 1 minute every 2
only
fucking
60
hours.
seconds. But I did lead off the show in all fairness with Ed allowing Ed to give his opinion before I let Jeff go on his tirade.
The week I didn't get to watch a game.
And I kicked it to them to make sure that if they had questions for Jimmy.
I did.
Jimmy's great. Jimmy's the ultimate former player podcast guest.
Oh, he's awesome.
I don't know that there's been a funnier video that UC's released than his video when he was walking around interviewing everybody at the pool. I don't know if you remember that one or not, but holy shit, that one was funny.
They used him to interview students and stuff too, up around
They used him around the cold tub after practice, where he was like hopping in the cold tub and interviewing guys. He's outstanding. He really is.
I told him, but before we started recording, he was in the chat with Ed and I was like, dude, you need to just walk around with a microphone on Saturday. On Saturday, like just around all the alumni and everything. Like it'd make great content.
He did mention that a lot of the alumni had already like kind of gotten together and were like, yeah, we're gonna be there. And he's like, and now there's like, once College Game Day got announced, there were a lot more people that were like, oh, I'm definitely gonna be there.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, the alumni tent might not be able to hold us.
You should have heard the response from the recruiting department, because everybody was kind of aiming so they were aiming for the UCF game to be like the big recruiting game, football, basketball, like the whole 9 yards. And then UCF, like Gabriel got hurt and that kind of went by the wayside, and everybody like pointed their guns at SMU. So they they were targeting the SMU game, which we did find out 2022 4-star defensive end Mario Eugenio is going to be on an official visit for the SMU game. Right. But then all of a sudden, game day, like you find that out. From what I heard, they found that out at like 9-10 o'clock Sunday morning. Really? That game day was coming. They announced it at noon, but they found it out like 2-3 hours earlier. And all of a sudden, the recruiting departments are like in scramble mode.
Right.
Right.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Oh shit! Game day is going to be here. We got to capitalize on this as much as humanly possible.
Yep.
So everybody's scrambling for Saturday. I'm probably going to cry sitting here not being able to be there.
Here's what's going to happen though. Our special guest picker is probably going to be like Bill Cunningham or something. It's not going to be anybody cool.
No, they're swinging bigger than that. Like I said on the boards.
Did you talk to Drew?
I did talk to Drew today. Yeah, I did stop in and talk to Drew today.
Anything you're allowed to share with us?
Yeah, Drew Lachey. So one of my really, really, really good friends is John.
From
John used to be on Q102.
I was on KISS.
He started on KISS yesterday.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite things is they named his show John and Friends. So the hashtag to his show is John AF. Which, like, I love. That's phenomenal.
Levitar did the same thing. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. PTPAF. I fucking love it. Like, so I stopped it. I was in doing Rick Broering and I did like an hour basketball thing with Mo today. And John and I, like, John. When John started at Q102, I worked at Q102 for like 15 years. Very few people know that. I worked behind the scenes at Q102 for 15 years. John, when he started at Q102, was a student at Cincinnati Bible College.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. John was like, he was working at the theater at the Levy, like as a manager.
Burlesque
the
place.
AMC, no, the AMC or whatever at the Levy.
The burlesque place.
The burlesque theater, Ed?
What the fuck is wrong with you, Ed?
What kind of theater you been going to?
The movie theater at the Levy.
That's like I thought you meant the brass ass back room.
Ed's talking privileges have now been revoked. You got them and then you lost them very quickly.
No, this is why you should talk more. We want all of this.
Exactly. Yeah, this is exactly why you should talk more. But they used to, like, when we would do like movie premieres, like the manager would come up and talk, and Grover Collins, who's the program director for B105, saw John go up and talk, and he was just a little like, well, not little, he's like 6'4", but he was like, you know, teenager, 19 years old, going to Cincinnati Christian Community College, and started him at Q102, and then like John started working, and then I got my hands on him, and I was like, this religious shit ain't gonna work, bro. Like, we're going down a different path.
Never looked back.
So I've like John has been one of my best friends for a long time. So him starting this week at KISS was awesome. But Drew Lachey is like his guest host because he's only got like
was today. All right.
Yeah. That was John and Drew Lachey.
So is Nick going to be in town this weekend?
I don't think so. I
No?
don't think so.
I'm surprised.
But I have heard Kenyon Martin will be in town.
Yep.
Kevin Youkilis will be in town.
He has to be in town.
Well, they were already prior to
Gonna come.
They were coming in town, which is weird because I think there's like some because of the airline that it like the private flight company that is partnered with Game Day. I think there's like some weird thing where they have to fly in
the guest.
Yeah.
Huh.
Which is why, like, I keep going back to the Ashton Kutcher thing, like when he was flown in and then rode like the corn machine in for the Iowa State game. I'm very curious to see who they bring in on this private jet. Huh?
I've heard it's not going to be Pete Rose.
I don't think it was a combine. I think it was like something different. I don't know.
It's a shucker. Corn shucker.
A
wheat shocker. Maybe a wheat shocker.
I don't know.
The funny thing is, I actually heard like there was a thing with Pete Rose where it was possibly going to be Pete Rose, and they tried to like connect the dots, and all the dots were connected until ESPN spoke to Pete Rose, and he was like, "No, I can't make it." They were like, "What the hell? Everybody said we were good. It was set to be Pete Rose," and then all of a sudden Pete Rose is like, "No, I'm too busy. I got stuff going on." So he's probably got an autograph signing in Vegas or something where he can't make it.
He's probably opening another casino.
Who knows?
So who knows who it's going to be right now?
It could.
Jordan
You also
Thompson.
think it could be somebody like. It could be what's the guy's name from Kentucky? Big movie star from Kentucky.
Clooney.
George Clooney.
George Clooney, right?
Clooney did take classes at Cincinnati.
Bombay.
Apparently, Ocho is in town this weekend.
He is.
Well, he did just get selected as the Week 9 ruler of the jungle for the Bengals.
So he's supposed to be in town this weekend. You want to talk about entertainment? And he used to come to UC and work out with UC's guys, like the wide receivers. And
that'd be interesting.
I love Ocho. If I had to pick, I'd pick Votto. I'd love to have Joe.
We talked about that, yeah.
Oh,
there was you bring up Ocho Cinco. There was a tweet today that went out that was a picture of Ocho Cinco, AJ Green, and Jamar Chase, and it was
start him, sit him,
bench and cut him.
Yeah,
that it was very difficult for me, but being my age and how I grew up, I went with Ocho. I went with Ocho, bench Jamar, and cut AJ. And
sorry AJ, love you, bro. But
it was just the way he went out, man.
It was not even that, but it was some recency bias with Jamar, and then
that same recency bias that hits you with AJ though.
Yeah, that too. But Ocho Cinco will always be the wide receiver one for me. I mean, he just will be. But it, obviously a different story. But he would be an awesome guest picker. I never even thought about that.
That would be pretty good.
Votto, I think, the thing I don't know about Votto that would make me uncomfortable is I don't know how much he knows about college football, right?
Yeah.
He reads. He subscribes to Sports Digest.
Yeah, but I just don't know like how diehard of a college football fan he is. Like I know he like baseball. He's a big basketball guy. Like he loves basketball. I just don't know where like if he was invested in college football, it would be Joey Votto all the way for me because he would fuck those guys up on set because they would try to be like kitschy and funny, and Joey would be like, "No, you're an idiot."
He'd be Joey. He'd show up in a Mountie outfit or something crazy, and they'd be like, "What the hell are you doing, bro?" And he'd just be like, "What? This is what I wear.
This is my city."
But Joey would be like, "You took them to win." Like,
tell me why. What are you thinking?
That team has an S&P plus of 27.4 and a right? Like the other guys on the set would be like, "Oh shit."
We don't talk about that here on ESPN. That platoons other people in the wrong direction. We can't talk about that here.
Joey would tear up the College Football Committee too.
Right.
Well, I mean,
that's why I would love Joey. He's the smartest athlete I think on the planet right now.
Can we also bring back the BCS, because UC would be number 2 in the BCS right now.
Somebody asked me today, they were like, why did they get rid of the BCS? And I was like, you can't corrupt a computer like algorithm. Well, Zuckerberg says otherwise, but like in terms of ranking football teams,
don't take me down. It's
pretty difficult to mess with numbers there. I mean, obviously it took into account some like human rankings, but the human rankings that took into account are, coaches who,
right.
And we've touched on it, but coaches that know what they're talking about and not.
The BCS is very meta to complete the.
Oh, you've gone all the way around.
I think that's where you gracefully ride off into the sunset, Chad. We move into the Bengals discussion to round this whole thing out as we're coming up on 2 hours. But our fearless leader, thank you for.
Chad said,
okay.
Peace.
I mean, he really did just
right off
rode that one all the way out. Well played, sir. Well played.
You, Aaron. Let me talk. I'm out of here.
I know he's like, shut up, Aaron. Jesus. So. Like I said, Bengals is really the only thing we have to talk about here. I did not expect Chad to bounce back.
Fired now.
I know, Jesus. Yeah. I don't have a job again. That's fine. Double fired again. So the Bengals played the Jets this week.
It didn't go well.
It did not go well, especially after being heralded by all the talking heads all week long about being the best team in the AFC. They were the number 1 seed for all of, 6 days? Before everything turned upside down. Now we're not even the conference leaders anymore. Not the divisional leaders anymore, rather. It was a mess of a game. And I know everybody wants to take it to the targeting call on Mike Hilton, as he was.
That's good.
It was. I mean, I don't think anybody can actually contest that it wasn't a shitty call, because it was. He was already in his tackling position well before the running back went down, but the refs are kind of left. I mean, I'll try to give them a way out here. The refs are kind of in a bad position because they can only really see things happen in real time, not necessarily on those types of calls in replay. So they see helmets collide more often than not. The defender is going to be called on that than the guy with the ball in his hand, unfortunately. But the Bengals should have never actually put themselves in that position with a guy who had never started a game before, was starting in place of the injured Zach Wilson, rookie quarterback who's started every game. And Mike White now has the same amount of wins as Zach Wilson in his career.
Well, I mean, and to kind of jump on the back of that, you've got a team that just went and signed Joe Flacco, and then
traded for him. But yeah,
well, yeah, okay, whatever. They bring Joe Flacco into the fold, and after that game, now they're like, well, we're gonna continue riding the hot hand.
Why wouldn't you?
But right, but you've got, when you look at the grand scheme of things, you've got a guy that you have zero film on, as the Bengals.
They've struggled with rookie. They struggled with rookie quarterbacks over the course of the last decade. Really, I mean, you have several playoff games against rookie quarterbacks that they've struggled against. Namely, the one in Texas. I can't even remember the dude's name. He didn't really play much thereafter. But yeah.
So you've got that. They've got a guy with like no film. They don't know what they're going to do, but they did allow him to throw a lot of these like intermediate routes and pile up the yards. The tackling was abysmal. The defense didn't look like the defense that we've seen this year. Kind of is what it is. What was it? A bad loss? Yeah, I mean it is. It's a good thing that there's no committee that ranks teams in the NFL. They just go based off wins and losses.
Thank you. It was TJ Yates that was the rookie quarterback in Houston that the Bengals struggled against. Thank you, Harish.
So you've got all that going on. I still think the Bengals are far ahead of where I personally expected them to be. The defense has been playing very well. The offense is pretty well clicking. I mean, you had T. Higgins kind of show out a little bit this
finally,
week. Right. But I mean, you got to think in Joe Burrow's head, he still looks probably to Jamar a lot as his safety
Probably,
blanket.
but it was good to see him spread the ball around. It wasn't just the
and he
Joe
does
and Jamar
that.
show.
He does that on a you just obviously Jamar gets a lot of the love.
Mm-hmm. Boyd had some catches though. CJ continues to get some catches
and kind of do
Hey,
what
real
he's
quick,
supposed
real
to do.
quick. Hold on, real quick. So, Mike White has had 2 cards sell on eBay today. One for $100 and one for $150.
That's wild.
That's because he's only the second quarterback to throw for over 400 yards in his first career start. The other
How
one was
long
Cam
will
Newton.
that stand? I mean, that's ridiculous.
It probably won't, but that's what he's got.
So you're saying you don't have a Mike White card and you're upset about it? Is really what you're getting
saying.
at? Right.
You would like to throw it on eBay and make a quick $150. Good job, Ed.
That's all.
He's
that was good.
Been trying to sell this Fifth Third chair for a week now. Can't get hits, but people are getting $150 for a Mike White rookie card.
That's true.
That's right. Ed does have a Fifth Third UC chair for sale for like $70. If anybody's interested, I think there's a crack in it or something.
One of them is 70, the other one's 40.
Yeah, he's got the fold-up chair also that is rumored to be from Fifth Third, right? It's not. You can't actually confirm nor deny that it is indeed from Fifth Third.
Did
It
Kenyon
was
Martin
sold
sit in
by
it?
UC Surplus with the same things with other things from Fifth Third Arena. So I cannot confirm nor deny that it came from Fifth Third Arena.
All right.
Did Kenyon Martin sit in it? Maybe. Or look at it one day on TV?
Can't confirm or deny.
Okay.
I looked up a lot of pictures online.
Basically, what I'm
Oscar
getting,
Robertson touched it in passing.
There was also a sticker from a hat underneath it, and some bubble.
Who knows? Who knows who that was
and
from?
some bubble gum.
Could have been from Sean Kilpatrick, perhaps. No one knows.
Could have been.
But what I'm getting at with the Bengals is I think that things are still going in the right direction.
Yeah. I mean, they still put up a lot of. It wasn't like we got blown out by the Jets.
My 8-year-old did have a meltdown, a literal meltdown over the Bengals.
We all did.
And
did you see Twitter after the game?
Yeah. Well, okay, you can't. And that's it right there. Twitter is an 8-year-old child having a meltdown.
Yes.
Over a football game.
Yes.
And you look at it, but it's on both sides, right? Like you've got like some people who are like
the meltdown's not just football games, by the way.
No, it's not. But like you've got people on one side who are like you have no reason to be upset about the Bengals losing today, like blah, blah. And then you've got like people who are like, the season's over, the Bengals might as well blow it up and trade Joe Burrow and everybody else and try and start this back next year. Which is absolutely ridiculous on both sides. Was it a little concerning that they weren't able to shut down a rookie quarterback?
Yes.
Yeah. But was it also concerning a little bit on some of the facts that they weren't able to stop, and make tackles when it should have been made? Yes. Did it likely come down to a ref throwing some laundry on the field over a bogus call that also got brought up by a lot of the national pundits as a bogus call? Yes. Should it have? No. It did. But the thing is you've got 2 professional football teams with guys that are all very good at football, regardless of if as a team they're very good with their record or whatever. Like these guys are all
any given Sunday, man.
They're all exceptional athletes. Because you sitting on your couch drinking beer on Sunday aren't able to go out and do what they do ever, like even a flag football game.
I sacked an NFL quarterback
in flag football.
Yeah, he was on the practice squad.
Okay, so everybody except for Aaron is going to be on their couch complaining and throwing a fit.
He didn't sack him. As soon as he grabbed his flags, he went up and told him that.
I said, "Thanks for letting me sack an NFL quarterback." He was so mad.
He said,
"Who was it?"
He said, "Let's take the flags off." And I turned where I let's take the flags off.
Who was it?
It was a guy who was he's from the area. All right, Ed knew. I didn't know.
Kyle Sheehan?
I don't know.
I don't even know.
He was a backup. He was a backup in Tennessee. I do know that.
Did you make that name up, Ed? Oh. Well, anyway, regardless, I think I don't think that the Bengals losing to the Jets, while yes, it sucked on Sunday. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Got a bounce back game. Got a bounce back game against Cleveland, and that's I think where you can just go back and rewrite the narrative.
Continue to win in the division. Yep. I guess Baker Mayfield's going to is back now. But he's not at 100%. There's no way.
Well, you had Odell's dad out here talking shit on Baker's Instagram today, on trade deadline day, by the way. So that's not a good look. You still only have one of your two-headed monster as far as the running backs go, with Nick Chubb being the only healthy one.
Kareem Hunt's out because he was on my fantasy team. I finally dropped him so that I could move Derrick Henry to the IR. That hurt. Is what it is.
Well, we'll see, man. I expect them to any divisional game get up for 100%. And you actually have film on Baker Mayfield, so I think it'll be a different thing.
The Bengals are going to be fine. They're playing good football this year. Okay, that's the guy. That athletic specimen is the one that Aaron sacked in flag football. But that's where I land on the Bengals. I'm not worried. I think that they're playing good football. They will continue to play good football. Jamar Chase is going to catch a lot more passes for a lot more touchdowns. There's going to be a lot more sacks.
It's going to be different too when Joe Mixon's all the way back healthy again, to where he's the workhorse again. But even still, P. Ryan's been doing just fine. So I think
Chris Evans is fine. Chris Evans.
Well, he's been out. He was out this past week. He was injured, dinged up. But I think the defense struggled tackling, as you brought up, and I think they'll get right. I think Lou Anarumo actually has them playing in places that they should be playing. And I think that this was just a one-off because you didn't have the film on this kid who came in and flung the ball around, unlike the way that the Jets have been able to do all season long.
Yeah, and maybe the Bengals just thought they were going to run it the whole game, and they kind of had it. Although they didn't really do well against that either, but they kind of got thrown for a loop when the fact that he was zipping the ball around the field like Brett Favre.
It was weird.
It was just a kind of a, I like to throw it up there as a strange one. If you would have told me that the Bengals would be a half game out of, the division lead going into this week, I probably would have, taken that.
I don't know that I would have guessed where those losses came from, but I think that we're sitting okay. I mean, it's still I don't want to label this necessarily a rebuilding year because I think they still have a shot at the playoffs, but I think that this is one to build on. I don't think this is the year that we were going to win the Super Bowl.
Here's the thing: is the Bengals can still draw an immense amount of confidence from the fact that they thumped the Ravens in Baltimore
2 weeks ago. Sure. So we do have the Browns again next week, and that game is here, right?
Yes.
It's not in Cleveland.
Yeah,
so
7 of our next 9 games or something like that are here.
Yeah, we've been on the road an awful lot, so good to get some of those home games again. Outside of that, Ed, we have promised you 60 seconds every week. So I think once again it is time, as we are just over 2 hours here. We want to get your 60 seconds. Maybe, I don't know, do we have a bum of the week at this point?
Well, hold on before we do that. If you're still sticking around, I meant to mention this earlier. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, like it, give it a little thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Do all the fun stuff with that.
And we had more people tonight active on our YouTube page than we've had in quite some time. So thank you for all of those who hopped in.
Our Twitter handles are all listed here. They're all good follows, but obviously the at PTP Podcast Cincy is the Twitter handle that shoots a lot of stuff out and puts out the links every week for when we're going to be live.
All right, so Ed, if you are ready, let me get my timer here.
Yeah, I'm ready. Let me lift my microphone.
I'm so excited.
I'm surprised you're not trying to get anything in early, but I appreciate that. So here it is. Your 60 seconds starts now.
All right, so I did AEW Dynamite this week. It started the night off with CM Punk versus some fishy guy. By the way, happy birthday, CM Punk. What's up with the red X's on your hands? Also, they mentioned Gorilla Monsoon in the middle of the episode. I thought that was pretty awesome. I missed that guy. CM Punk looks like I can't read the rest of that. Oh no, he looks like that uncle that thinks he's still on the high school wrestling team. That's what team look. Also, no signs. I guess Let's Go Brandon guy ruined that for everybody again. That LFO guy got blindsided and attacked by Darby Allin. I think Darby Allin's my new favorite guy. And then we came with John Moxley versus the fake Doink the Clown guy. John Moxley's from Amelia, Ohio, so that's pretty cool. So John just doesn't like entrance ramps. Is that what the thing is? Also, dude is a street fighter. That must have came from Amelia as well. It's 2021. Why is there not padding on the ring post? I mean, come on. We can figure that out somehow. I wrote something else here.
And time.
Oh, what another good one, Ed. What another good one. Way to go. Go ahead and shut your notebook up. And we'll pick this up next week. Oh man,
LFO like the boy band?
Like the boy band?
That guy in Cincinnati.
Oh,
what's LFO?
LFJ, is that his name? Couldn't remember his name. The only thing that came to my head was LFO, so I just did it.
I think LFO was like a knockoff Walmart boy band.
I like girls that wear Abercrombie and Fitch.
Oh, it was that group?
Yeah, that was LFO.
Oh, nice.
So I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? And why does he know what they look like?
He did say CM Punk looked like the uncle that thought he was still on the wrestling team. Like,
my favorite part of that was him not being able to read his own writing. God bless you, Ed. God bless you.
You know, after everything that's transpired in the last 2 hours on the podcast, in the last like 4 hours in Cincinnati sports, I needed a good laugh. Thanks, Ed.
You're welcome.
I love you so much.
All right, that is that or the wrestling documentary that I watched.
All right, Ed, I need you to be better about hitting those comments, but thank you as always. There was one from Matt Phillips. He was, I think, the most active in our chat today. Good night to you too, sir, and thank you for the great podcast comment that Ed never posted. But it was another episode of Pardon the Punctuation. As always, I am your host, Aaron Smith, brought with me Jeff Howell and the best producer in the city, Ed Mayhall. But again, thank you to our guests, Brent Young. We didn't expect to have Chad. Chad was able to make it because Kelly couldn't sleep. So, Chad, thank you for your time as well, sir. And Jimmy Smith, thank you again. Fantastic guest on the pod. What a wild ride that 2 hours was. Ed, again, I love you so much for the way that you ended it. But
thanks, Ed.
We will catch you next week. Pardon the Punctuation, Tuesday nights. And
like and subscribe.
It's going to be a fantastic finish as we get the reaction to the CFP updates the rest of the season heretofore. So keep on the look for that, and we'll talk for you real soon.
Goodbye.
Ba-dum-bum.